Keeps my accounts secure. Want it all? You want all of it.
Chicago's concierge business.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I don't understand my AOL mail. Okay, so at 9:27, I wrote classes on to Moshe, and then it went liz@goroff.com. And instead
Oh.
but anyway,
Instead
yeah,
of L. Goroff, LM Goroff.
right. And I don't know why it went
Yeah.
there, but in any case,
That's
it's
okay.
on. All right. I'll make
Okay.
sure next time, if I send you an email that it's the right one. So, okay.
Did you get any results?
No, not
Okay.
yet. Yeah, I'll let you know. Actually, I can look right now because let me see if anything came. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Oh, well,
No news is
if-
good news.
yeah, maybe. If it doesn't come by, late this afternoon, I'll call or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Sometimes
have
I
to
guess.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think sometimes it just takes a day or two, especially since it's
Yeah.
so many tests were done on it. They took
Yeah, that's
three-
true. Some of them
three
take longer.
vials of blood.
Yeah, I wonder. Felt like the vampire got you.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch Bill Maher on The View?
No. Who was on?
Bill Maher was on The
Oh.
View.
He was. Okay.
Yes. And he was good. He
yep.
was fine. Yep.
Yeah. I wonder, maybe I can get a excerpt of it on YouTube or something to see.
Yeah, because I think he has a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So
He
it
also
might
has
be
a
on the-
podcast. He has a podcast called Club Random, where he interviews different people.
Oh, nice.
I haven't
Who
seen
are we
that
talking
one.
about?
Bill Maher.
Oh,
Yeah.
And now I'm at Amal Clooney.
Who?
she has
Amal.
done. She
Oh,
has
yeah.
been-
She's the one who asked for Netanyahu to be.
she's always been. This is. I just, for the sake of. She has been working with the World Court on these issues before
Years.
she met George Clooney.
Yes.
This is what she does, and for what the World Court does, I'm just saying this it's only my opinion, obviously, as a individual, but it is the best they can do in the world court is to indict Hamas and Netanyahu, and not just Netanyahu. I think they did Gallant and certain other people.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
never going to do better than that. That's what they're set up to do that.
Hmm.
Why they don't do it to other countries?
Fact.
That is a legitimate question. But the fact that they do what they're doing is it's what they're set up to do. They're just being themselves. They're, in my opinion, it's what
Yeah.
they have these laws, they have these things, they are set up to do what they're doing. So I feel like a distinction should be made between people that are some kind of a arm of enemies of the Jewish people,
Yeah.
like let's say the Iranians,
Mhm.
and people like this who we might feel they're misguided, but I don't think she in particular needs to get more ire than anybody else. She's just doing what she does. It's just, I don't think it makes her an anti-Semite, but everybody has their opinions, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that know her well and would be able to, and maybe they know that she is an anti-Semite, but
We
they
don't
do
know
what
that
they do.
fact. Yeah.
Right. They do. That's just what they do. And the fact that they
I'm sure-
indicted the Hamas guys.
Yeah. Like they're gonna get them. Although they're not all in Gaza, right? I mean, the ones
Right.
that
One
are
of them.
in Qatar,
One of them is in Qatar. I
right?
think, right.
That
One of
one
the people.
they might be able to arrest. No, well, it's up to Qatar.
Supposedly, the guys. I don't remember where I read this, but the guys in Qatar are partly protected by the United States,
Oh,
I believe. And the United States told them that their time under protection may be coming up, that they have to start making plans for what's going to happen next.
Oh, they're Denise.
no, I don't think so. You mean they might have to leave, or they won't be under
Or they
protection
just can't
anymore?
promise them protection.
I see. I just wonder, so the charges have to be, I mean, the charge that got me about Netanyahu, and that they're purposely starving people, which
Oh.
really is certainly not true. That they're
Right.
purposely,
And
I'm not saying people aren't starving there. I'm saying that they're purposely starving people. I mean,
There were instances where
they bombed that
also
truck.
part of the problem with the Netanyahu and other government people is they have made political rallies.
oh,
They have said things which sort of come back to bite them. So like when Netanyahu compared them to Amalek or something. So they do make statements especially like in political rallies that could be interpreted that he wants to wipe them all out, because if you call them Amalek or things like that, and those kind of statements. But somebody did make the point that these are just indictments, that they will get a chance to defend themselves.
right.
And one of the defenses they're going to be able to make is they are a democratic government defending itself against an attack, which is from a threat that continues to exist, and they should be judged differently than Hamas, who are who attack them, etc.
Wants to wipe them out.
Right. So, like for instance, at that trial that happened previously, they didn't fully convict. They sort of left it sort of fuzzy at the end. And part of what I understood at the time is part of what made it fuzzy is because they are a democratically elected government that was attacked and has a right to defend itself. But the thing is, they could get quotes from these guys about certain instances where aid was coming in, like, and who knows what they've said at rallies and stuff like that could come back to bite them.
Mhm.
Even if I don't think anybody in Israel believes that whoever was in charge of the government would do it differently. The way Israel is prosecuting this now in Gaza would have been the same thing if Lapid was in charge, or Gallant was in charge, or Gantz was in charge. Any of these people, they wouldn't have prosecuted this war any differently.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody, certainly I didn't get any feeling in Israel or amongst, even when I'm reading stuff in Jerusalem Post and other places, it doesn't seem like Israelis would have thought this any differently. So I don't think anybody in Israel thinks that it's the particular fingerprint of Netanyahu, that somehow this war is being waged by a fanatical man who's trying to stay out of prison, and the specific decisions that are being made reflect Netanyahu's worldview or something. I don't think any of those, they're all generals, all those guys. I don't think any of them would have done it differently, but who knows? But it is.
Netanyahu was on Good Morning America today.
He what?
He was on Good Morning America today.
Yeah.
Netanyahu.
He tends to do well on those kind of things.
He did very well. I mean,
a
he
good-
knew exactly what to say about why
Right,
it's going on, and
right. And they
it's
already have
not
cracked it.
them, it's Hamas.
Right. Yeah, to me, the most shocking thing to me was that they indicted the Hamas guys. I wasn't shocked by the other part. I was shocked by that they indicted them. I think Ariel Sharon was indicted for the Sabra and Shatila. Remember that all the way back? He sued
Yeah.
Time Magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was. Right.
But I'm pretty sure he was indicted at that time. I don't know. I'm gonna, if I was invited to the Clooney compound in Lake Como or wherever they are in Italy, I might smile at her. I might not. I don't.
Shake George's hand.
What?
You could shake George's hand. He hasn't said anything yet.
Right. There was, amongst the viral kind of videos that go around are that I really love watching every time it goes around is Tina Fey and what's her name?
Amy Poehler.
Amy Poehler.
Poehler. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, when they at the Golden Globes, there were like 3 years in a row where they hosted the Golden Globes, and they're so funny. But one of the funniest things was they were giving like some kind of lifetime achievement award at the Golden Globes to George Clooney. They were honoring his career for some reason, and so they go through all the things that Amal Clooney has done as somebody who is advocating on behalf of people around the world that are suffering terribly before the World Court. And they just went on about all the things she's done. And then they said, but tonight we're here to honor the achievement of George Clooney, who's been
They
in the
reran that on Morning Joe. I saw that.
It's
Yeah.
so they hit it so correctly, and everybody was laughing at themselves. Okay, so there was a guy, Walid Shubat. Remember when he came to North Shore Center for Performing Arts, the Palestinian, who he had converted to Christianity, and he had become a ardent supporter of Israel, but he originally was a Palestinian terrorist, or he claimed to have been a terrorist. And so we had this large event at the North Shore Center for Performing Arts, lots of organizations together. And he kept on making this point that he said, you Jews want everybody to like you. They're not going to like you, but they could respect you. And he was saying, like, I think you should move in that direction. You're not going to get them to like you. But we want them to like us.
Better to be feared than to be loved, Machiavelli says. So, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go along with
Well,
that.
that's definitely the strategy that Israel is taking. So we were talking about Yibum, and yesterday I was mentioning how when you look at the law, it seems like a kind of esoteric law. I mean, it makes pragmatic sense. You are helping what's left of a family that now is going to be very vulnerable, left to the elements. I mean, in this case, a wife, a widow, and you're ensuring her protection when you do Yibum, because she's being brought into the security of the family, again. But the great emphasis is that you're building the house of the brother that passed away. He never got a chance to build a house, so you're building his house. So
Rabbi, I was wondering, does the requirements of her ketubah pass to him?
Yeah,
to
it's
the
the same.
brother?
They don't write a new one.
Huh?
They don't write a new ketubah. They don't do a new kedushin. The brother steps into the relationship. He is now stepping into that relationship. So he's also going to get the lands of that brother. That was in the book of Ruth, even though there it's not exactly a brother, but he's going to take over the property of the brother, but he's also going to build the brother's house. So he's actually seems to be stepping in to continue what the brother had already started. But that element that I remember, Rabbi Foreman, like when I brought it up to him, he didn't have an answer to it. By now he might, because that was probably 10 years ago. But why is it that we don't consider the child's lineage connected to the brother? It says you're going to build a house for the brother. The seed is going to be, as it were, you're like a surrogate. The child born is going to be born, as it were, to the brother. That's what it sounds like from the text. But when you see examples of it, it doesn't play out like that. And most strikingly, with Boaz, even though it's described in strong Yibum terms, but the child Oved is considered part of Boaz's lineage and not part of, I think it's Machlon was Ruth's husband. but you see it with Yehuda and Tamar, that the Peretz and Zorach are identified with Yehuda, not with Er or Onan. They would have been the same. Obviously, it would have gone back to Yehuda anyways, but it skips Er and Onan. It doesn't mention them. It's not emphasized anymore. So exactly how that's manifest, how is it expressed that they are really the house of the brother? That is, it's not emphasized afterwards, but that is the notion. It's also just sort of weird that they're comfortable moving away from Yibum for the last couple of thousand years. The Gemara, maybe 1,500 years. The Gemara mentions the opinion, I think, of it might be Abba Shol. I forgot whose opinion it was. That nowadays it's better to do chalitza than yibum, and the comfort they have to go to chalitza, even though when you look at the language of chalitza, you're shaming the brother for not doing yibum. She spits, and the language shames him for not doing yibum. But we've moved to this place where there's a comfort in not doing yibum, especially if, as Rabbi Foreman has pointed out, yibum is such an integral expression of the values that the Jewish people are founded on. So you would think that it wouldn't be so easy to veer away from it, but it's a rare mitzvah. Not again, apparently still there are still yibums being done nowadays, but not that many. And here's the chalitza one. That is that he commanded us that a yavama release her yavam if he does not marry her. And that is his may be exalted saying, and she will release his shoe. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in Tractate Yevamot. You already know they're saying, the commandment of Yibum takes precedence over release. And that is why the tractate is called Yevamot, even though it includes the laws of levirate marriage and of release equally, which we call chalitza. So here again, it sounds like Yibum is the major commandment. We don't want them unless there's some other issue. We don't want them to do chalitza. It's also interesting, he's careful to say that the chalitza is actually her releasing him, even though when it comes to Yibum, she has no say. She has no say. I mean, obviously, if they're completely inappropriate for each other, the court can intervene and try to get him to agree to chalitza. But even a divorce requires her consent, rabbinically. A divorce requires her, not rabbinically. I shouldn't say that. A divorce biblically does not require her consent. Not even rabbinically. We require her consent. That is part of Takanas Rabbeinu Gershom. That's only from like about the 900s going forward. One of his takanos, one of his decrees, was that you cannot divorce a woman against her will. I don't know what the Sephardic community does with that. The Sephardic community did not accept the takana, the decree of Rabbeinu Gershom, that you can only have one wife at a time. They did not accept that. I don't know if they didn't accept any of his decrees, because that was one of his decrees. You can't divorce a woman against her will. But that's not, it doesn't have the status of rabbinic law. That it's more like custom, strong custom. But you cannot marry a woman against her will. A woman has to give consent to get married. So even though Yibum is sort of like marriage, but since he's just stepping in to an already established marriage, he doesn't require her consent. So technically in Yibum, in form, the way it's done, it's left to the decision of the brother. If the brother decides he wants to do Yibum, there's going to be Yibum. Again, if the brother is unfit or unsuitable in the eyes of a court, they will try their best to get him not to do Yibum, but ultimately it's in his hands. But Chalitza, as he characterizes it here, she is releasing him from the mitzvah. So that is interesting. It's not him who, when he decides not to do Yibum, he just says, I'm not doing Yibum. It's not him who's affecting the separation. It's her who affects the separation through the chalitza. Releasing his shoe is the way she's sort of indicating that that he is sort of released from her. So that's sort of interesting. I asked Rabbi Reese about how come you don't hear about that many chalitzas, and he said that in his entire time, and he's been a Rav based in for I think 3 decades. In his entire time on based in, first in New York and New Jersey, and then in Chicago, he's only been involved, I think he said, with 14 chalitzas. And I asked him why there would be so few. And he suggested that the reason there are so few are, first of all, in modern times, there are more means available for a young couple to have children than there used to be. So finding a young couple that doesn't have children is much rarer than it used to be. Also, there's so he credited it with that. There's a strong push for Jewish young couples to have children. So if they're not able to have children, it becomes apparent like a year into their marriage. They're already starting to be concerned about it. And so all different methods and means happen. Obviously, not everybody's blessed with children, but it's not as common as it once was. And so that's why. And also, he added another factor. He said, when it comes to a get, when it comes to a divorce document, even people that are not Orthodox will get a get, but not chalitza. It's not something that, if it's not something that's crossed lines. So if somebody's not Orthodox, they're not doing chalitza. Whereas if somebody's not Orthodox, they're doing a get. So gittin is something that a based in is constantly dealing with, but chalitza is rare. He suggested for those reasons. But they do have a chalitza shoe at the. I even took a picture of it, but now it will take me too long to find it. But they have a chalitza shoe at the Beit Din. He also said that chalitza shoe has fit everybody that they've used it for. It looks sort of like a shoe, like a flat, like a woman's flat, kind of on the bottom, with straps going up the leg, sort of. Okay, so that is Yibum. Now we are moving on to rape. that is that he commanded us that a rapist marry the woman he raped, and that is his may be exalted and may be blessed, saying, and she shall be his wife. And it has already been explained in the Gemara in Makos that this negative commandment of rape, that he cannot send her away all of his days, is a negative commandment that is preceded by a positive commandment. So there's two parts to this. He's supposed to marry her, and he can never divorce her. He doesn't have the power to divorce her. Unless she wants the divorce, but he doesn't have a power to divorce her. Hence, it has already become clear that this, and she shall be his wife, is a positive commandment. The laws of this commandment have already been explained in chapter 3 and 4 of Ketubot. If she does not want to marry this man, then she doesn't have to. She only marries him if she wants to. Why would a woman want to marry the person that raped them? I don't know how to answer that. There is a story of Amnon and Tamar, the other famous Tamar in Tanakh, where she is raped by her half brother, and then afterwards she experiences like a double humiliation. She's first raped, and then when she wants him to marry her, he dismisses her. It's a very legally complex, besides being one of the great dramatic stories in Tanakh, a great terrible dramatic story in Tanakh. It's a very legally complex story because they're half siblings. So how was she thinking that they could ever be married? And it's part of a larger drama that ends up leading to the revolt or coup of Avshalom against his father David, because Avshalom was Tamar's full brother, and he eventually kills Amnon for what he did to his sister, and David doesn't respond to it well as far as Avshalom is concerned, and Avshalom develops a hate for his father, and therefore there ends up being a coup against his father. So it's part of a really big, terrible drama that is really one of the most intense in Tanakh. But there you had a rape where she, after the fact, still wants to marry him. I don't know. Again, there are those who suggest that as a rape victim, she is very unlikely to get married, this woman, and therefore the only chance she has for a home and the protection of living in a home is to live with this man. Whether it also indicates a lack of sensitivity to how terrible rape is, I don't know what to say about that. In different times, did they have a different sense of the severity of rape? It certainly looks that way from the Torah, that that the attitude of rape towards rape of the Torah is not quite the same as the attitude of rape today. And looking back at this, which is sometimes the case, when you're looking back at the lens of how things are perceived today, it's somewhat surprising. That this man has raped a single woman. If he had raped a married woman, he would be put to death. But he raping a single woman, it's considered more of a civil crime. He's going to be charged, and he has to pay. He has to pay what apparently was a steep fine, but it's still, he has to pay a fine, and then he has to marry this woman, and he can't divorce her. So it is, I guess, the fact that it ends up being a payment and not jail time, and makes it seem, or whatever. Does he get lashes?
Right.
I
Rabbi,
don't
I know there's
Lashes
many,
are-
many stories filling this out, but it would have been nice to know how Dina actually felt about this. And
It does say, I mean, the language is the same language of causing pain. In the Dina story, it does say that at least initially it was a rape. But did she eventually still want to stay with him afterwards? That is not discussed in the story.
and his obvious love for her and the whole, yeah, I don't know.
But it is clear that he raped her in the beginning.
Yeah.
From the text. That's clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But the switching to love and everything like that. Yeah. It's just not, it's not her feelings about it are not discussed. Her brothers seem to be defending her honor, but not necessarily her wishes. We don't know. We just don't know. They do seem to be concerned about her, but it's not clear if it's more like an honor thing or a family honor thing, or if it's really concern for her as a person.
And Yaakov seems to be a little mixed on his, whatever,
Well, the brothers think he's not taking it seriously enough.
right.
There's definitely intertextual connection between Avshalom's reaction to David and Shimon and Levi's reaction to Yaakov. In both cases, they're furious that their father didn't take it more seriously. In fact, you could read everything that happens after the rape of Dinah, including the hatred of Yosef, etc., as all about the rape of Dinah. That their anger at Yaakov, obviously, it's mixed in with how he treats their mother, but even the stuff with Yosef is really just anger at Yaakov directed at Yosef. But even like you have Ruvain, according to the text, sleeps with Bilhah. The Medrash says it wasn't actually sleeping with her, but according to the text, he sleeps with Bilhah, which is Yaakov's concubine / wife. Avshalom sleeps with his father's concubines, and there he's clearly doing it as a coup. He's taking David's concubines as a way of demonstrating that he's the new king, or he's going to be the new king. It's an act of a coup. When Ruvain does it, it could be interpreted as a coup or an act of a coup, that he's trying to take over. That the brothers are just so upset about what happened with Dinah so you could easily do comparing and contrasting over there, and and showing the similarity between those stories, and in particular, not showing the enough empathy for what happened. We don't know what happened with Dina afterwards and her relation with her father afterwards, but it certainly seems to bother the brothers, and you have that same thing with Avshalom and David afterwards. Yeah, so that's that. All right, so we're going to stop here, and then tomorrow we'll deal with another difficult thing, which is the Motzi Shemra case, where the new husband claims his wife wasn't a virgin. So these are all difficult. When we were learning Daf Yomi this cycle, is the first time that I had women in the Daf Yomi class. And I anticipated what areas were going to be harder to deal with women in the class, but I didn't anticipate how deeply troubling it would feel doing the tractates Ketubot, Yevamos, Kesubos, Kedushin, and Gittin. Just one after another involve tragic circumstances where women are suffering. And I remember Rav Aaron Soloveitchik, he always felt that having a separate Musar setup, a separate Musar session in the day, or a separate Musar setup, in other words, devoting yourself to Musar, which is character development, he felt was wrong, because it's all there in the Gemara. If you're learning the Gemara well, you'll get the Musar part. You don't need to separate it from other areas of Torah. You'll get the character development. And I felt like after studying Gemara with women during those tractates, there is no way that when other people are learning Gemara, that they're getting all the Musar out of it. Because there's no way they're having to look at all these cases. The typical man is not looking at these cases. They're looking at these cases like a doctor who's looking at a disease. They're not personalizing it. They're reading it from a distance. If you're reading anything from a distance, you're not going to internalize it just because you read it, unless somebody calls it to attention, and then you have to internalize it. But if they were reading Ksubas and Kedushin and all that with internalizing it, it's brutal. It's brutal. And this is the stuff. Anyways, okay. I look forward to doing more tomorrow. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank
right.
you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
bye, Estelle. Bye.